I stood before the assembled courts, my robe of office as pristine as it could be for someone who worked around a lot of dirt. I got my notes in order and tried to likewise order my thoughts, but it was difficult in my current state. It's hard to collect much of anything when you're sitting before two queens of Fae. Each Fae court had no less than 7 counselors, but while they were huddled on benches, the queens of summer and winter sat on thrones of polished bone and heartwood. It was all quite intimidating, but the pageantry and the intrigue of it was a little much for me. The lady had been missing for 3 weeks by this point, and it had been the longest 3 weeks that anyone could remember. The garden had been closed, despite what Randy had said to Tobias. Tobias was doing his best, but none of us could do what the lady did. We had that spark of her power, but we couldn't create the strange and wondrous things that she did. Without her, we would have a hard time getting much out of the botanical gardens, and Tobias was trying to find something that they could cultivate, some new kind of plant or fungi that they could showcase, but it wasn't quite as spectacular as trees with faces and confectionery landscapes. For the time being, we had decided to close the park and hope for the best, but a week after Randy and the Barker had set off with the Gordling, something unexpected happened. It was just a few at first, 1 or 2, but when I left for the council meeting today, no less than 15 Brandylow had disappeared. At first, I was afraid they had been taken by something. Maybe the Green Man's people had started abducting them, but Tobias assured me that this wasn't the case. It happened after she became a statue, too. They're looking for her, following their senses, so they can locate her. Whatever the statue did to block her, we're having trouble finding her until we caught her scent randomly one night. Some of them will come back, and some of them will feel moved to pass their powers on to others, but in the end, we will have our Brandylow back. They always come back. They're drawn to her. What we need now, however, is to bring her back. Hence why I petitioned this meeting. Courts of summer and winter, I am honored that you have agreed to meet with me today. I come to you on a matter of no small importance, on a matter that means quite a lot to me and my people. Our patron has been stolen from us, taken by a member of the Winter Court. There were some theatrical gasps, but I'm pretty sure that Titania and Mab already knew that the lady was missing. A few of Mab's counselors made outraged exclamations, but Mab seemed less than surprised. Quite the contrary, a quiet, wintry smile played across her face as she leaned forward on her carved throne to peer at me. So, that creaking bastard actually did it. I didn't think he had the sand to go against my direct order, but I suppose I was mistaken. Then the court will, it's already done, emissary. The Green Man is here, and for all time, exiled from the Court of Winter. He possesses no holdings, he commands no titles, he has no authority over any within my court. He will have no asylum with us, you may rest assured. I breathed out in disbelief. That had been much easier than I had thought it would be. I'd expected Mab to ask for proof, to request a period of investigation, but she had simply cast him out. Part of it was her very public declaration at the winter gathering to do so if he crossed her. But I suspect that she might have been looking for a reason to be shed of him as well. Perhaps he had become too ambitious. Perhaps she was simply tired of cleaning up his messes, but in the end, it amounted to the same thing. On to the next bit of business. Then I would bring up another matter of business that has brought me here today. My lady, our patron, is gone, and we have no way to find her. We have people looking for her, but the world is a very big place, and we don't know where she might be. I'm requesting the help of Summer in finding my patron, a member of your court." Titania looked at me levelly, Mab looking at her with an air of bemused uncertainty, and I suddenly felt very warm. It is something few have experienced to be in the probing gaze of an aspect of the growing times, and it makes me think of small animals and predators. She could kill me if she wanted. It wouldn't be hard, but I was hoping that court protocol would keep me from being slain out of hand. "What sort of aid would you ask of the court?" she finally asked, seeming to relax as she decided that she could ignore my implied rudeness. "I would like some help finding her," I said, trying not to shout. "We have sent our own people, but we're limited. I would ask you, Queen of Summer, to send out your scouts. You need not fight the Green Man. We can do that, but we need to know where to direct that fight." Titania chewed this over, taking so long that I thought I might go mad, before finally nodding. "Very well, I will dispatch my dewdrop fairies and tell them to scour the cold areas. Mab, perhaps you might do the same. Your fae are more adaptable to the cold spaces than mine." Mab chewed over the request, seeming to savor the idea of it, and I gritted my teeth as I waited. I got that fact that they were eternal beings, but sometimes it seemed like they had no sense of urgency, and it was maddening. "I suppose I could be moved to do such. I will send out some of my little scouts as well, to show that there is no lingering loyalty to the fugitive Green Man." I wanted to scream, but I forced myself to bow instead. Tobias had explained that while they could be infuriating, it was best to be courteous and deferential. "Thank you, my queens. Your help is greatly appreciated." I returned to my seat on the summer side, a small table that had been set aside from the rest that I was told was for lesser lords and their vassals. Another delegate came forward, something about trade routes through Fey country, and I tried to remain respectful while we whiled away the hours on things that had no relevance to me, while the clock ran forward in the real world. Time ran differently here than it did in the mortal world, and I could be losing days while I sat here listening to trade disputes and whatever else this was. I supposed it didn't matter. I could do little at the park anyway, without the help of these Fae Scouts, so I sat patiently as a small eternity went by until finally we were released. "Thank you for your patience and for your attendance. We shall now bring this meeting to a close." As they all rose, me rising with them, Queen Titania turned her perfect green eyes towards me, and I stopped. "Brandylow, stay for a moment. I would have a word with you." I nodded, approaching her throne as Queen Mab took her leave with the rest of the counselors, and I was left alone with my lady's patron. "I understand your need, believe me, but in the future, I would suggest you show a little more restraint when you speak to those who command the elements. I could have easily taken offense at your word. My sister could have taken more than offense at those same words, and you would have been called to answer for them. I apologize, my queen. I went beyond myself. It won't happen again." She nodded, but then she covered my hand with hers, and I felt the warmth of a mid-July flow through me. "I worry for her too, child. I worry that the Green Man may finally get what he wants, something he has wanted for centuries. The last time he took her, she was gone for nearly 50 years. It was an eye blink to me, little more than a passing fancy, but I know the Brandylows suffer while she is gone. Tobias came to me then, much as you have come to me now, and begged me for help. For 10 seasons, I sent my people to search for her, and for 10 seasons we found nothing. I believed the worst. I believed that she was gone from time, and I mourned her. When she came back, it was like the first wind of summer had returned to my halls, and I want to see her return before it's too late. But I cannot be seen as to divert too many of my resources away to the search. My court is precarious, always has been, and they are as fond of intrigue and plotting as their contemporaries in winter. I have to maintain order, but I will give you every resource that I can." I nodded, understanding what she was saying, but not liking it. "Thank you," I said, patting her hand with mine, "and I promise you that we will bring her home. Randy is searching for her too, and I know that he won't give up until he finds her. He's as stubborn as a mule." She gave me leave to go then, and I stepped through the door to the council room and back out into the greenhouse. She could set up the doors wherever she wanted. Titania was talented with things like that, and the door to the lady's office was an easy enough way to go between worlds. Tobias looked up as I stepped out into the growing area and stepped away from the bed of earth that he'd been working on. "What did she say?" he asked, though I believed he already knew. "Titania and Mab have agreed to help us. They want to send out scouts to look for her. Both courts say that they'll report back what they find, so I guess it's back to waiting." Tobias nodded sadly. "I guess it's something. It's more than we got last time. Titania sent only a third of her fairies out for a decade, and when she found nothing, she gave up. Speaking of scouts, we got a letter from Randy," he said, reaching into his apron. It was the second one in 2 weeks, and I took it and broke the seal so that I could read his latest update. He had thought letters might be a better way to communicate, since the phones could be tapped, and we didn't exactly have the things that you might need to set up a phone plan. So he mailed letters, and we hoped for the day that he would tell us that he had found her. "Dear Sam, greetings from Tennessee. We've been searching here for a week or more. It's amazing how far you can travel when you don't need to sleep. The Barker's been trying to find the Green Man as well, but he seems to be finding it hard to locate the sense of him. The Gordlin has been more help. He's been leading us west, heading for something. He's pulling us towards the mountains, unerringly towards the mountains. I hope she's close. I'm ready to be home. Keep your heads up and be safe. Randy." "He's okay," I told Tobias, handing him the letter. "They're in Tennessee. It's pretty cold there. I hope he's being safe enough." We looked at each other for a moment, neither of us saying what we were thinking. We were hoping that his next letter would tell us that he was coming back with the lady, before things here began to fall apart, worse than they already were.
You're still here. Thanks for stopping by. Dr. Plague here. Always a pleasure to see all my new and old viewers coming by for another one of my spooky tales. If you'd like to support the show, you can always take part in one of our channel offers through Fume or Aura, or you can just click on another video when they come up. I'd really appreciate it. For our newer viewers, we also have lots of playlists and other things if you'd like to get caught up. I know some of my series have been going on for quite a while. If you'd like to get my latest book, there's a link down below that'll take you to my Amazon page. Towesey Homestead just came out, so if that's something you'd like to get your hands on, go ahead and have a look down there. If you'd like a signed copy, you can go ahead and email me from my email address on the site, and I'll get with you about shipping information and ship you a signed copy. If you'd like to support the channel in a more monetary fashion, we also have membership through YouTube, and we've got a Patreon that you can get the information for in the description. We have lots of tiers and everything to suit your needs. Patrons that support on the $10 tier, that's our Ghostly Reader tier, get a book anytime I write one, signed and on their doorstep. As you may have noticed, there's a list of patrons and members on the screen, and I'd like to personally thank every one of them for taking a hand in the future of this channel. Well, that's enough for tonight. Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.